Higher on dividends here. I'm not going to call it the final video, but basically the recap of all the prior videos where I'm summarizing everything into one. But if you haven't seen any of the prior videos, basically I decided to use one of my accounts, one of my wife's accounts, actually, her retirement account. That's going to represent the retiring on dividends portfolio, which would eventually represent my actual full portfolio when all said and done, right? Because, when I retire, I can eventually move all of the accounts into one. Right now I have three. I have the taxable, which I share with you guys all the time. I have my wife's 401k, which is this one, and then I have my 401k. But right now, what you're looking at is going to, what I'm doing is going to only be in my wife's 401k. So anyway, the plan for that account and the plan for my eventual retirement is to allocate the funds as shown on the screen. And the reason I'm doing this is because it helps, number one, it helps me sleep at night. It's within my risk tolerance, and it should be enough for me to retire and live off of. So if I do 25% dividend growth, that would yield me anywhere from the range of 0 to 4%, which, in the end, when I calculated what I chose, it averaged about 2.88% annualized yield. Obviously, that's very low, but you have to keep in mind the dividends are going to grow, right, on those accounts. So any ETFs, these are all ETFs, by the way, that I'm buying. So those ETFs, the dividend would grow over time. And also the capital most likely will grow over time. I'm also going to do 25% into real estate investment trusts, aka REITs. They typically yield from 2 to 4%. The ones I chose, again, this is a basket of REITs. It's an ETF. I chose, they average 4.04%. And then the mid-yielders, 25% to mid-yielders, typically, what I consider mid-yielders, that's up to interpretation, of course, they'll yield anywhere from 10 to 20%. And then you have the average yield that from the funds that I chose, at least, they calculated to 15.45%. And then last but not least, the most important piece here, the reason I will be able to retire early, hopefully, is the high yielders. And these high yielders, what I consider high is 25% annualized yield or more. The ones I chose actually yield 35.25% on average. So when all said and done, whatever amount I have, regardless, if I evenly allocate this, I can yield 14.4%, which is perfect, okay? So first, I'll go into the funds I chose, and then I'll go into how I plan to retire. So here's the final list. It's separated by category. So the top part, this is in order of what we just spoke of, dividend growth. I'm not going to go into too much boring detail, but the top part, let me zoom in a little. If I could get that bottom section, forget it. All right, so in Peach, I chose, I couldn't narrow it down anymore. I need to narrow it down, and I will at some point. But for now, the dividend growth ETFs are FDVV, Fidelity High Dividend ETF, VIG, Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Index Fund ETF, DGRW, Wisdom Tree U.S. Quality Dividend Growth Fund, VYMI, Vanguard International High Dividend Yield Index Fund ETF, VYM, Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, SCHD, again, that's probably the most popular one, outside of VIG, of course, Schwab U.S. Dividend Equity ETF, DGROW, another popular one, iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF. Again, some of these are actually called Dividend Growth ETFs, which is awesome. SDVY, First Trust SMID Cap Rising Dividend Achievers ETF, VIGI, Vanguard International Dividend Appreciation Index Fund ETF. And I'll share this spreadsheet if you guys are interested, but please obviously do your own research, of course. Again, these are just these numbers are as of like when I plugged it in. The dividend yield can change. Expense ratio is pretty, that rarely changes. They'll have to announce it if it does. All right, so what I'm doing is my portfolio right now, it's around 45 to 50,000 range. I was going to just, slowly average into each one, but for now I'm actually only going to put 5,000 each into each, one of the four sections. So since there's so many funds here, I already put $555.56, obviously plus or minus, into each fund. So, that'll be the the allocation of of that. What the hell did I do here? G20. Yeah, 20,000. Yeah, it's 2.78% of the total portfolio. Each fund is. And then this H2 divided by 2. Oh, okay, yeah. So the allocation of the 20,000 is 2.78%, but the actual allocation for the account will be 1.39%. But that's kind of irrelevant for you guys. The next section for REITs, I chose only two. I narrowed it down to two. But to be honest, there's not much good options for the REIT ETFs. They didn't perform that well. But BBRE and VNQ performed awesome. BBRE is JP Morgan Better Builders MSCI US REIT ETF, and VNQ is Vanguard Real Estate Index Fund ETF. This again, the REITs got 5,000. So since there's only two, I put 2,500 into each fund. The third section is what we call the mid yielders. I chose FEPI, which is the Rex Fang and Innovation Equity Premium Income ETF, pretty new fund. JEPQ, couldn't deny JEPQ, although it has a lower yield. I have FEPI to average that out. JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF. SPY is the NEOS S&P 500 High Income ETF, and then SVOL is the Simplify Volatility Premium Income ETF. Since I chose four on this one, I put 1,250 in each. Last but not least is the high yielders. This is YMAX, which is the YieldMax Universal Fund of Option Income ETFs. YMAX basically buys all of the YieldMax funds and weights them equally. JEPY is one of the Defiance funds, and they sell puts daily on the S&P 500. The name is Defiance S&P 500 Enhanced Options Income ETF. All right, so when all said and done, the average expense ratio for all of these is 0.41%. The average dividend yield, how did that come to? Yeah, when I average it this way, it doesn't look as pretty, right? E2 to E18. All right, we'll have to look at that because, again, my average on the other screen, I have it at 14, but anyway. But it doesn't have the proper weighting. That's why. Anyway, so ignore the average dividend yield on this screen. It's actually irrelevant. Doesn't represent the appropriate weighting per category. So yeah, I'm gonna put 20,000 total into all of these funds, and I'm gonna add on occasion into each fund. Hopefully, keep them properly weighted. And eventually, this is my wife's retirement account, her 401k. I'm going to roll it into an IRA at some point, and then she's younger than me. She's 39. So unfortunately, with these stupid retirement accounts, you can't touch them till you're 59 and a half. So we have another 20 years. So that being said, let's look at, the goals, right? So I have starting investment. Again, right now the account is 45,000, around there. I'm not going to invest all 45. I have different plans now. The reason is, and don't mimic what I do, but the reason is I'm not going to contribute anything into this fund anymore once she quits her job. So I'm going to make money through different methods. And the one method I've been utilizing is swing trading. And I explain that on the weekends. I do a weekend update, but the strategy I've been using is pretty safe, I'll say, and it's been working so far. So I plan to use that to add additional income towards these funds as we go. But anyway, let's just say I put all 45,000 into this account, and let's say it did yield 14.4%. All right, I would right off the bat, I would make 6,480 a year, 6,480 a year, and monthly I'd make 540.07, which is pretty good. Okay, assuming zero contributions, which is what I have here, right? Zero contributions. If I don't, if capital stays flat, which is very possible with all four of these, right? Because some has capital appreciation, some has capital depreciation. Let's assume capital flat, and just constantly reinvesting dividends, so on and so forth. This is annualized, so keep in mind, if you did this monthly, it would actually look better. So I used my wife's age, row 13, 39. This is the year 2024. So we, again, start off with 45,000. If we go down, say, till when she turns 50, okay, we'll be at 197,000. This is without new money. This is just with reinvested dividends. And then in green would be the monthly income. Again, when she's 50, she can make 2372 a month, or 28,000 a year. However, she can't touch this until 59 and a half. So, which is about 20 years. So I just did 20 years, which she'll be 58. So we'll use that for now. Total capital will be up to 580,000, and that can produce $83,532 annualized, or $6,961 per month. I did not put anything for taxes because this is in a Roth, so there will be no taxes. So yeah, this is how it's going to look if I do the 45,000. However, I'm not doing the 45,000. I'm doing 20,000. And right now, I have no monthly investment, but I'm going to update that in a second. So let's just say no investment, right? With $20,000 at 14.14%. In 20 years, you'll have $257,000, and that would pay you $37,000 annually, or $3,000 a month. But I'm probably gonna do maybe a couple hundred a month. I don't know. Let's just say 250. Right? If you do 250 a month, the contributions, obviously, this number takes that number times 12. Okay, so contributions 3,000. I could be at 500,000 annually, which is, I think that's a pretty safe number, again, because this is one of 3 accounts that I need to retire off of. So I'll stick with that number. That actually worked out pretty good, 500,000. So now let's go to the allocation. So on the right here, I have across, you see the income, the different capital, 250,000. I have 500,000, 750,000, 1 million, 1.5 million, and 2 million. Again, my goal is to hit this number right here. Okay? If I hit 1.5 million and I can yield 14.4%, I can make $216,000 annually. Okay? That comes to 18,000 monthly, 4,100 weekly, and then daily 592. And before anyone says anything, yes, obviously I have to pay taxes. I understand that. So that's obviously considered, this is the gross. However, also, I need to reinvest 25%. Me personally, that's just what I'm comfortable with. I need to get used to having to reinvest 25% to make this work. So I'm going to reinvest 25%. I'm going to keep 75. Therefore, I would have to live off $162,000, which is $13,000 a month, or $3,000 weekly, or $444, whatever. So again, everyone has a number. That's my number. I would say the minimum that I could safely retire off of at any age. Obviously, inflation is going to happen, so this number could grow due to that. So, I may extend these numbers out to the right as time goes on. But yeah, that's my safe spot. That's my goal. With this account alone, I'm probably, realistically looking down the road, 500,000 would be good. The other 2 would have to add up to $1 million to make this work. And hopefully, all will be fine. And guess what? If it's more than 1.5, even better. If it's 2, again, because the goal for me is not to retire. The goal is to be able to retire. I want to be at a point, at any point in time, you know, that I can say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to take a year off, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Or, right now, obviously, the immediate goal is to make enough for my wife to retire. Not retire, but to stay home with the children, because it just makes, our lives in general just so much easier. So one thing at a time. Obviously, her staying home loses an income source, which slows down, the the actual full retirement, but it's a better lifestyle. It's better for her. It's better for me. It's better for the kids. So again, life is what it is, but you don't stop, right? I'm not going to stop. I'm going to utilize swing trading as the source of income. Instead of using her paycheck to put into the fund, I'm using swing trading to put into the fund. And sure, it might not work out. Sure, I could lose money, but that's the risk. You got to take risk. But yeah, so that's my plan. That's my goal. Again, I'll share updates to this account periodically if you guys are interested. Definitely not weekly, maybe monthly, maybe every other month. It'll be, won't be as exciting. I'll probably just go through Fidelity. I'll see how I can do it. But if the app lets me do like landscape, maybe I'll just do it through the app. But either way, that's where I'm at. Those are the funds I bought. So again, that's the final list. Hopefully this helped a little, give you an idea of what's possible. And again, the reason I'm buying ETFs is because I no longer have time to worry about the individual stocks and research the individual stocks. Number one, I have a full-time job. Number two, I'm a part-time YouTuber now. Number three, I track these funds, these other funds daily. So those are my focus. So at some point, yes, I'm trusting Fidelity High Income ETF, FDVV. Here's 0.15%. Go do what you got to do. Go choose the right funds, Obviously, they have a good track record based on historical data, so I'm happy to do that. So anyway, that's it. That's the retiring on dividends portfolio. I hope this video helped. I hope this series helped. I'll share all the videos down below in the description if you want to go back and watch all of them. But in the end, this is the summary. And then from here on out, again, I'll just do periodic updates. If I change anything, I'll let you know. If I drop a fund, I'll let you know. If I add a fund, I'll let you know. I'll share this spreadsheet. If this interests you, I'll add it to the Discord. It might be already there, but maybe I'll put the final one there. But as always, guys, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for fun and entertainment. So hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you're entertained. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button. And any questions, concerns, or comments, leave them down below. Thank you for watching. Later.